You ever look at a tree and feel bad for it? Just standing there, vertical and stubborn for 80 years, only for some guy like me to come along and decide that its destiny is actually to be a pretzel?
Every time I walk into your shop and smell that wet dog scent of steaming lumber, I assume you're having another one of your negotiations with nature.
It's more of a hostage situation, Alex. Today we're talking about the two ways to make wood forget it's supposed to be straight: steam bending and bent lamination. One is a graceful dance with chemistry, and the other is basically just bullying a board until it gives up.
I'm guessing you're the bully in this scenario?
Usually. Look, normally as woodworkers, we spend our lives trying to keep wood from moving. We kiln dry it, we seal it, we use joinery to lock it down, but sometimes you want a curve that you just can't get by carving. If you cut a deep curve out of a flat board, you end up with short grain, where the fibers run off the edge, and the whole thing has the structural integrity of a stale cracker.
Right. So instead of cutting across the grain, you're forcing the grain to follow the shape. But for someone sitting at home wondering which path to take, when do I break out the steamer and when do I start slicing things into thin ribbons?
Steam bending is the romantic choice. It's what shipbuilders and Windsor chairmakers do. You're essentially using heat to soften the lignin. That's the organic glue that holds wood fibers together. When it gets hot enough, those fibers can slide past each other.
It sounds very zen until you realize you're working with boiling water and wood that's basically a ticking clock once you pull it out of the box.
Oh, the clock is loud, Alex. It's screaming. You have about 60 seconds of noodle time before that wood starts to stiffen up again. My first attempt at a steam bent handle for a garden tool. I thought I had all day. I wandered over to find my clamps, maybe stopped to check a text. By the time I tried to wrap it around the form, it was about as pliable as a frozen crowbar. I ended up just snapping a beautiful piece of white oak right in my hands. It sounded like an M80 went off in the shop.
That's the thing people don't realize. You can't just use any old piece of wood from the big box store for this, right?
Exactly. You want air-dried lumber if you can get it. Most of the stuff at the lumber yard is kiln-dried. That process sets the lignin. It's like overcooking an egg. You can't unrubbery it. If you try to steam kiln-dried oak, you're going to have a bad afternoon. You want green wood or air-dried stuff where the glue is still willing to play ball.
So, white oak, ash, hickory, the bendy woods.
Those are the heavy hitters. If you try to steam bend something like cherry or walnut, they'll do it, but they're prone to compression failure, where the inside of the curve just buckles and looks like a wrinkled accordion.
I saw you using a metal strap on that last chair back. Is that just to keep you from getting burned, or does it actually do something?
That strap is the secret sauce. When you bend wood, the outside of the curve wants to stretch and the inside wants to crush. Wood is terrible at stretching. It'll just splinter. The metal strap stays tight against the outside and forces all that movement to happen as compression on the inside. It's like putting the wood in a corset so it can't fly apart.
Okay, so steam bending is high drama, time sensitive, and species dependent. Let's talk about the more predictable cousin, bent lamination. To me, this always looked like a lot of work just to make a plywood sandwich.
It is a sandwich, but it's a gourmet one. This is what you do when you need absolute precision. If I'm making a pair of rockers for a chair, I need them to be identical. If I steam bend them, they might spring back differently depending on the moisture in the air or how long they sat in the box.
Spring back? That's the wood trying to reclaim its former life as a straight board?
Precisely. But with bent lamination, you take a thick board and resaw it into thin strips, maybe an eighth or 3/16 of an inch thick. You slather them in glue, stack them back up, and clamp them into a form. Once that glue dries, those layers are locked in an eternal struggle. They literally can't move back because the glue line is rigid.
You mentioned glue. I've heard you grumbling about cheap glue when you're doing laminations. Are we not just using the standard yellow stuff?
You can, and for years I did. But standard PVA glue, the yellow woodworking glue, is actually a bit rubbery even when dry. Over 10 years, those laminations can start to creep, and your curve might lose its shape. If I'm building something that needs to last a century, I use a plastic resin glue or a 2-part epoxy. It cures rock hard. No flex, no creep.
But the setup for this looks like a nightmare. You have to build 2 forms, right? A male and a female side to squish the wood between?
You can, but a pro tip for the folks at home, you only really need one solid form. Use a thick piece of cork or heavy rubber on your clamping caul. It'll distribute the pressure and take up any tiny gaps. If you try to make 2 wooden forms fit perfectly with 6 layers of wood in between, you're basically asking for a math headache that a bottle of aspirin won't fix.
I've seen your math headaches. They usually involve a lot of pencil marks on the floor and some very creative cursing.
Hey, layout is half the battle. When you're building your forms for lamination, you have to account for the thickness of the strips. If my form is a 10-inch radius and my wood stack is an inch thick, the outside form needs to be an 11-inch radius. If you forget that, you'll have gaps in the middle of your sandwich, and that's where the project goes to die.
So give it to me straight. If I'm a beginner wanting to add some curves to my furniture, where do I start? Which one is less likely to make me want to sell all my tools on Craigslist?
Bent lamination is the safer bet. It's chemistry over feel. If your strips are thin enough and your glue is wet, it's gonna work. You can do it with any wood in your shop. You want a Purple Heart curve? Laminate it. You want a curve made of 3 different species? Laminate it.
But I can hear a but coming.
But there is nothing like the smell of steaming oak filling the shop. There's no feeling like pulling a hot, limp piece of wood out of a box and realizing you have the power to mold it like clay. Steam bending feels like you're collaborating with the tree. Lamination feels like you're conquering it.
That's surprisingly poetic for a guy who just compared woodworking to a hostage situation.
We all have our moods, Alex. Sometimes you want the precision of a scalpel, and sometimes you want the chaos of a sledgehammer.
What's the biggest retail price lesson you've learned from these two? The one mistake you'll never make again.
Oversteaming. Everyone thinks if an hour of steam is good, 2 hours is better. It's not. If you steam wood too long, you cook the fibers until they're brittle. It's like overboiling pasta. Eventually, it just falls apart. 1 hour per inch of thickness, set a timer, keep your hands off the door, and for the love of all things holy, wear gloves. Steam burns are a special kind of miserable that stays with you for a week.
So the takeaway is steam for the soul, laminate for the sanity.
I couldn't have said it better. Use the steam when the wood is wet and the shapes are organic. Use the glue when the specs are tight and the wood is dry. Either way, stop making everything out of rectangles. Life's too short for 90-degree angles.
Well, I'm off to go find something straight and see if I can make it wavy. Wish me luck.
Just don't use the good kitchen steamer, Alex. Your pasta will taste like sawdust for a month.
Too late.
See you next time in the Tiger Den.